So we're recording now. We had a conversation a little bit about different class delivery systems, and this class is a hybrid class, but we've been meeting on campus, and I've had remote option, which is not usual. I'm doing it a little bit different as a test run. But for the rest of the class, we said we would meet up until March. For the rest of the class, these classes in April, we're going to be online, completely online, but I'm going to be here still in the classroom, like physically in the classroom. If anyone needs help, if you need to use the computers, it's going to be kind of like an open lab. Or if you need to use the drafting tables across the hall from here. So if you need to use the computers or the drafting room, I will be here every Monday. Except for this last day, because I will be out of town May 5th. That's our last day there. For you to have the option to come in and ask for help or use the computers, right? So all of the rest of the lectures are going to be things that are online that you would go through yourself and work on the assignments. The different styles that we'll be taking a look at. And then we'll work with kind of a final project here in the last week. Any questions? Any questions about that? Nope. All of this next month, all of April, I will be here, but I'm not lecturing. Everything is going to be online. I will have either the lecture online or some kind of PowerPoint presentation for you to go through. I'll probably have some shared files for you guys to work with, a little bit of research, some kind of assignment like we have been doing that you would work on whenever you need, whenever you want to work on, and as a guide to try to finish within that week to stay on track. Yeah. Are you with me, guys? Let me know if you have any questions. Any other questions, Tessa? You? Good morning, Ryan. Yeah. All right, then. Let's take a look at these styles. I put a lot of styles in here so that we can kind of like briefly go through them, but then I did also post an assignment here. Let me go through the assignment first. We've got 3 questions about the styles that we're going to be looking at. And then what I did, instead of asking a bunch of different questions about those styles, we're going to go through the lecture first. So make sure that you go through the PowerPoints first before you answer these. But I'm asking you to add one more interesting topic or building with details that's not in the class presentation about each of these architectural styles. So I'm going to go through these styles with you, and I'm going to show you like what the idea is about them, like what makes them that. And I'm going to show you some examples in the PowerPoint presentations. And then you guys find something, I don't know, something interesting, even if it's just a couple of sentences. If you can't find something like a couple of sentences that are like saying something about the architects or saying something that's not in the presentation that's unique about that style, then the other choice would be to find a building that best represents that style that's not in the presentation. Right. Okay, so let's get started here. So we stepped through time together with some of the major architectural styles as we came through the different time periods. And now we're going to go back and kind of like skip around a little bit to pick up a few other styles. And believe me, there are a lot more that we're going to be working with in April to to kind of comb all of the different styles and directions in architecture. But you know, after this industrial revolution and all of the machine age um, designs, the Bauhaus was created as a school of architecture and design by architect Walter Gropius in 1919. And the Bauhaus meaning house for building. And this is a really well-known style that had several books. If you wanted to take a look at those books, you could. There's always some kind of furniture design that the architect, or not always, but a lot of times the architects create furniture or write books about the architecture that they're representing. And so one of the main objectives of the Bauhaus was to unify art, craft, and technology. It was popular because of the idea that it was the school of architecture, um, well, design, and then architecture that studied the combination of those things. So how do you pull those all together? The machine was considered a positive element. So this is where there was no teaching of history in the school because everything was supposed to be designed and created according to first principles rather than following precedents. So this is why the school of thought of this school kind of broke a lot of conditioned thinking for, you know, for borrowing the past or from using the past. And they're like, you know, trying to, but I mean, you can't. It's hard. There are sometimes, I mean, you can create something that's unique that hasn't been done in the past, but we have it. It's in front of us. We learn about it. The way to the future was not through the past. That's what the Bauhaus was claiming to be a part of, and that you can see that I have my opinions that come in, but somebody else could look at this and have a completely different thought on it. School didn't even offer architecture classes until you know, years later in 1927-ish. Okay, so through time there were different architects and directors, and Walter Gropius was first to kind of bring it into this design of art and technology. And then a couple other people, but Mayer, not as popular as a person, but Mies van der Rohe would become one of the top 3 architects of all time, honestly, from 1930 until 1933, when the school was closed by the Nazi regime, and many of its artists and architects, including Gropius, immigrated to the United States. Gropius taught at Harvard and Mies at Illinois Institute of Technology. So Mies was at Illinois Institute of Technology. I almost went to school there. I went there. It's in Chicago, south side of Chicago. It was in a really bad neighborhood. I was, you know, on my own with getting a studio apartment, and I felt good on campus, but I just didn't feel good, you know, going there. So we talked a little bit about Mies, but we'll talk about him in a minute. Here's the Bauhaus, the unified art and technology. You can see that there's no ornamentation. It's based on functionality. These asymmetrical forms, like not the same on both sides, like this box that has a couple of punched in windows on this side and one long one, but then there's only one on this side, right? Different cutouts, geometry, a lot of geometry. So it's mostly, you know, cubic shapes with angles, right angles. Although some features rounded corners and balconies, they had mostly flat roofs, smooth facades, and open floor plans. Sounds sort of like what um, Corbu was doing over in Europe. So Bauhaus also is called an international style or transition to international design, international design. Some will say that these two are the same, while others argue that Bauhaus was developed in Germany. It was called international design in USA. So different conversations about what uh, these different styles are, and that happens a lot too. The colors are white, gray, beige, and black, and this is the home of Walter Gropius. Here you can see kind of indents, the ribbon window that was really a part of that. This is Corbu's house. There's Walter Gropius's house. Not that, different during that time. And that would be a good study right there, is like differences between Gropius and Corbu. I didn't pick that up as my topic when I was in the history of architecture classes. But if you look at these two slides, you can kind of see a little bit of similarity, right? Okay. Corbu was famous for this kind of machine style architecture. We talked about Corbu when we talked about architects, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on his architecture, but wanted to bring it into this conversation since it is similar and a part of the beginning of this modernism. And I did already read this because I kind of admire his work, to be honest. The couple of architects that I enjoyed. And then we did talk about Mies using materials and this kind of less is more idea that developed out of this modernism. This is that Farnsworth house purchased for $7.5 million on an auction because of its importance in our field of study. It's not much to look at, but it really paved the way. At that time, there were no houses that took this industrial design, stripped it of any ornamentation and created it as more of an artwork like this. There's some conversation about it being this open living space as well. So the international style, which we just read, was kind of Bauhaus, but more Americanized. Was this modernist architecture that emphasized function and the idea of form follows function, which is something you might hear, where you look at the layout and the form of the building kind of follows the function of it. I was not a really big fan of it myself. I lean towards, okay, design the layout of it and the function, and then the form is more an artistic expression that can be developed around it in so many different ways. I mean, look at Frank Gehry's work. Look at a lot of work that's based on circles and angles and geometry. It doesn't follow the function of the spaces. So the international style had this like concrete, glass, steel were the most common, but showing off the skeleton frame construction, because before this time, that was all covered, and now we're exposing the structure. No decoration, these ribbon windows, the corner windows that go around here. You can see some of the pictures here. The curtain wall, which is like really again a hung wall. The balance of regular and regularity, flat roof without ledge, and the spandrel panels. Spandrel, if you look up spandrel panels, it's a panel that goes across. Look at this picture right here. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. The second floor right here has some kind of structure, and it's hidden by these spandrel panels. So sometimes it's actually glass that's different color, but that's what that is. Okay. Let's get more pictures. There's some other examples of the international style, kind of boxy with this asymmetrical design and like punched in windows as well as these big cantilevers that were happening during that time as well. Here's the international modern style. So then you can see how these words are all kind of used interchangeably, and some people will look at it one way or another. They'll call it Bauhaus, they'll call it international style, they'll call it modern style. It was confusing as a student to honestly figure out which one they were talking about. But you can see Mies van der Rohe is in there a little bit, exposing the structure, a little more streamlined. And then we have this style, I believe it's called. It's German or Dutch, a group of Dutch artists kind of took this international box asymmetrical white design and brought in some colors, and the red and the yellow on top of like the international kind of box style with cantilevers and punched out windows became a little bit more artistic, I think. I kind of liked it at the time. If you look at this style, it's beautiful, and you'll see stained glass design and shirts that are designed with this pattern of a grid that's not completely a grid, kind of thrown off a little bit in its patterns. So embrace painting, sculpture, architecture, furniture, and decorative arts. Use black, white with primary colors, rectangular forms, asymmetry. So I don't have this one in the document, but that is, guys, if you want to replace one of these with this style and do a little bit more on that, that would be kind of cool. So you can replace one of these with this style architecture if you'd like to do that as well. I'm just telling you guys that because I think that would be kind of cool to do. Okay. I know I'm not pronouncing it completely right because I'm not German or not Dutch, but I think I remember it being this style. All right, postmodern architecture. It wasn't well liked by a lot of people, but it tried to take these kind of modern forms that are stripped of ornament and kind of return it, but in still a modern way. So it's one of those things where everybody condemned it publicly and how awful it was, but then later on kind of started to like it, and more people were doing it and doing it well. So we have some postmodern architecture right in our city here. If you really look close enough, it'll look like modern, but it has this this ornamentation, a reference to history in it. Michael Graves was really one of the first to reject the modernist principles and try to return some of this historical reflection. And this Portland building right here, Portland building, you'll find videos of people protesting its style, creating really actually big protests against the style. I've never seen a style that was so hated, honestly, or I haven't heard of one that people wanted to like just make it go away kind of thing. But I mean, I think that they tried to bring back some history in a modern movement, right? And postmodern also would be um, Robert Venturi and his wife here, um, Denise, I think, Scott Brown. Yeah, Denise Scott Brown right there. That's them right there. They created a book called Complexity and Contradictions in Architecture, a very popular, very well-known book. I like it. It's in my office. If anybody wants to like look at it and browse through it, let me know. Uh, this whole idea of less is more to less is a bore, meaning like let's not. It's like this fight against the modern movement. Let's do something a little bit more creative. Let's create a little bit more art instead of just boxes. And so what he did was he took this just a regular house, right? Design, a gable roof, and he kind of like pulled it apart, put a little, opening there. You can see that it's still not symmetrical. It's asymmetrical because you have like something different on this side than this side. And really, really kind of opened up the idea that that we can do something different with something that exists, a house like this, right? Okay. Here are some other examples of postmodern architecture. This is, we have Philip Johnson's design in Detroit. I don't know, this one is this one in Detroit? The AT&T headquarters, no, that's in New York, but we do have, I have to take a look. I think Philip Johnson did a building in Detroit that was postmodern, but I have to go back and check which one that is. You know what, guys, I really want to do that right now because it's on my mind. And since we're here, let's see. Philip Johnson was very popular at one time. He's an older, I don't know if he's even alive. Johnson.
He did one in Detroit Center.
Detroit, yeah, oh yeah, I knew it was this one. As soon I had this one in my head as being it, but I just wanted to double check. But this is the building here in Detroit that Philip Johnson did, and when he did that, that was a huge, huge thing. That was a part of Detroit to have such a famous architect come in and design a building like that. A lot of architects were designing buildings in Columbus, Ohio, I think it is. And so when cities are open to experimental design like this, then then you get the right clients. Yeah, the one Detroit Center is Philip Johnson's, and this is like that postmodern architecture we were just talking about. Okay, had to do it. And when I lived in Chicago, I worked around the corner from this library, so I kind of watched it. I think I was there during the beginnings of it, and you see how it has this kind of ribbon recessed design on it. It has all of this, so it's kind of like bringing the past and bringing like modern ornamentation to it. Yeah, postmodern. All right. What this is. Sorry, guys. Um, just wanna. I haven't looked at this, and let's just see here. If I can. If this is interesting, I think there is. Oh, modern architecture. This is an article, timeline of 20th century modernism, modern architecture and its variations. So a couple of other, designs here. Let's see. Oh, so the reason I have this is to talk to you about all these different types of styles that we haven't covered yet or that we're discovering. This expressionism and neo-expressionism in these kind of more sculptural designs. Let's just see here. Yeah. So there's some really great conversations in this article about constructionism and how all of these things, evolved. Here's the Bauhaus, another, example of it. In fact, I think that this is his house that we had other pictures of, but now there's a little bit more information there. You can always pick up some of that information for the for the uh, assignment. And here's that the style here example. I love, that's why I had this link here for you guys to use to take a look at this. It looks modern, right? But it has that color. It has a little bit more style in the black grid. Uh, there are better examples of this with the grid of the yellow and the red and some blues in there. Functionalism, minimalism. You can tell international. This is the international style. Look, see the article. It says international style is a term often used and described as Bauhaus, like architecture in the United States. One of the most famous examples is this building here, and we'll go on to talk to you about it a little bit. Mid-century modernism. So you see the boxes and the flat roofs. Structuralism. One of your assignments later on in this class will be to find a style that interests you and kind of report on it, because there are so many. But metabolism, how do you say that? Metabolism.
Yeah.
I remember this. This was something that was studied, because these are little apartments that are little box compartments that you just like kind of the smallest amount of space to just go in and sleep, honestly. And then there's this one, high tech. This one actually is a different style as well. But I lived right around the corner from this in Paris, the Pompidou. It's more of a library kind of gathering space, and and beautiful, really beautiful as you're walking around it. There's so many different things happening, but it's got a lot of tech things in it, a lot of machine, like different materials that are used in a kind of mechanical way, right? The steel, the aluminum, the glass combined in this bright colors and grids, beams. I love it. I mean, it was really an artwork, to be honest, to walk around, and they had all these different little like places where you can sit with all the artwork around it. The support beams, the ductwork, the functional elements were like exposed on the outside. Brutalism, look at it, Ryan. Organic, which is really was really popular with Zaha Hadid and some of the other architects. Still is, guys, where architecture is organic and it's kind of more free flowing. A lot of examples of that. And then here's the postmodernism. So I did pick up a couple of in this article, you'll see the styles that we talked about, but then you can kind of explore the other ones if you'd like. We're going to talk about deconstructionism in the next couple of weeks, or have it as a something that we're going to explore. A lot of different examples of that as well. And then this one is called parametricism. I don't know if I said it right, but the idea being that the computer creates all of these different artistic designs. And I actually helped a student put this in Revit. We put it in Revit amazingly. And more about this kind of fluid spaces and yeah, you can see it already being kind of curved in shape, but it is about, it's something that we're going to be talking about for sure, because I was a big part of creating formulas that when putting in different variables, it would change the wall system. That's the best I can explain it. Okay. And so I just thought that was a really good article for you guys to kind of browse through, to look at some of the things that we talked about and pick out a few more things. Now, I am going to talk also this week. I was thinking about doing it next week, but I'm going to talk about it also this week. Asian architecture. We didn't concentrate on that, but it is a big part of it. Chinese, Japanese, some of the other things that were going on, like these temples that are still earlier on, right? We're talking about potentially 200 BC or before that even. You should really know about these things here, and I forgot how to pronounce it, but I think I have it right here in parentheses to help me out. The Temple of the Sun at this pre-Hispanic city of Teotihuacan. What do you think? Teotihuacan. Approximately 25 miles northeast of now Mexico City, is the largest ancient pyramid in America. Now, the stories behind this are kind of, and you'll see movies of it too. They're just kind of disturbing. It's unknown if the shape was a form of Egyptian architecture discovered on its own, but it was after, but not that far after. Originally topped with a temple, but you can see the picture down here. And the purpose was estimated that 10 to 80,000 daily human sacrifices, sometimes 4 at a time, for 4 days for the gods. So should actually have that as this. Yeah. So you'll see movies and you'll see representations of all these sacrifices, and it was pretty like built with stone and polished red plaster representing blood around 200 BC, layers built over time up to 100 AD. So it's significant because of the fact that it's in America and part of the ancient pyramid type design. At this time, it may have had more than 100,000 inhabitants, placing it among the largest cities in the world during this period. So very populated. And also, this is where you see kind of the beginning of master planning, right? A large plaza surrounded by temples that formed the religious and political centers of the city. The Avenue of the Dead is aligned to 16% north or 16 degrees northwest to come into alignment with the setting sun on a certain dates. Does that kind of like remind you of something? Does it remind you of a building or a place we studied at the beginning of the class? What do you think? Stonehenge, right? Right, because there was that whole thing with the sun and a lot of ceremonial, place, this whole planning of master planning, this urban, master planning design. Here's the Pyramid of the Sun now with around 250 stairs. Pyramid of the Moon. Recent excavations have revealed a burial chamber which contained a bound and sacrificed victim, rich offerings. Da, da, da. Okay. So here are some other things. The 12,000 BC, which is really old, like way before oldest human remains of Mexico found in the city. 9,000 BC, domestication of corn starts. The roots of Mayan extended back to as early as 1500 BC. Now these are some, I don't know if I have it in here. I guess I have the beginning of it here. There's more that we should look at when we talk about the Aztecs and the Mayans. I think I'll bring that in the next few weeks as well. But here are some of the early Mayan architecture in Mexico. With you can see some of the sculpture there. Here's the modern adaptation of ancient Mayan architecture, Mexico City. American architecture didn't begin until the 1600s with the initial settlement and colonization of the English in Jamestown, right? Now, if you know your history, you would be able to go through that. Virginia with early colonial and Georgian style architecture. The oldest recorded church in 1632, Virginia, and house 1637. We will probably look at some of that as we look at it. So the last few sections here, I just want to show you this. Just a brief introduction to what we see as being Chinese architecture and Japanese architecture. I know it's a whole topic there, but you can take a look through some of this detailing, but I think through movies and through kind of our understanding of a Chinese architecture, you could see that it's a lot of this organic architecture, this feng shui system of aesthetics to help improve life and receive this positive energy flow. This whole Tai Chi, or what's it? Is that Tai Chi? No, Yin Yang, right? That isn't that Yin Yang, right? It was very popular at one time where people, I don't know if you still do, some people still have jewelry and shirts to look at the balance of what that represents. But you'll see a lot of pools and gardens and spiritual, places here. There's more to it when we talk about the Forbidden City that I think we're going to get to. You can see that the roof line is a little bit similar to Japanese architecture. I'm not as familiar with these types, but I do know of them, is probably as much as you guys do as well. But you can read through this and see that there's some Chinese preferred the timber construction. We look at that jointed connection, not nailed or glued. We see a lot of those curtain walls or door panels to separate the rooms. And this is that Forbidden City, which they've locked down a lot over the years, but they're adding more to it as technologies come. Like there was a long time when they wouldn't include a Starbucks in here or any kind of coffee shops, but I think recently they may have. I have to check that because there was some controversy on. They're really like locked it down to keep the history of it. Chinese Imperial Palace, home of the emperor, here consists of all of these surviving buildings and large logs of wood and blocks of marble. This is an interesting place if you wanted to like look into that. Has anyone been here? This is a popular place for people to visit. And you can see, look at how beautiful these mosaics are, right? The altar of heaven, blue glazed roof tiles to symbolize the sky. It's a beautiful building. You know, like this is part of that Forbidden City, and I think a popular place for tourists to go to look at all of this marble detailing and gold plated material. And of course, the Great Wall, can't go without talking about that. There's a lot of history behind this and that I'm not, it's not a part of this lecture, but you've probably seen a lot of movies on it and know a little bit about it from books and things that you've read. Look at, it's, 9,600 miles. Most of the wall is 26 feet high, but raises up to 46 feet. 20 feet to they're 23 feet deep. And so Japanese architecture, very similar, but follows this kind of symbol, and you'll see that on a lot of their designs, especially in parks, developed independently of the Western world. And Japan's isolation banned foreigners in the 1600s until restoring links in 1850s. So you may have seen popular movies like Shogun and the Samari? No,
Samurai.
Samurai. That's right. Samurai warriors. That's right. Japanese architecture had more of an influence in Western culture than Chinese. And it didn't change over the years. So there's a couple things in here that I picked up about it. But I wanted to show you some of these examples of the roof line and how it curves. You probably already know, some of you've seen this in movies, the white plastered timber walls, the rocky, base, the wing-like gables that we know, and this has a moat around it. So you see these symbols a lot in Japanese architecture. In the religion, you'll see it here in the gable design. And like I said, in some of the popular parks or throughout the Japan. I've never visited Japan or China. Has anybody here been there? Probably Mike, he's not here. Or maybe he is. So this is kind of like the best, I think, representation of the swooping winged like roof structures that you'll see in Japanese architecture as well. And there's a little bit more detailing here in this slide. All right. construction of the first Buddhist temple kind of follows the same idea of these huge overhangs that are sweeping winged like roof lines. I only put 2 slides in about India because there are some significant structures here that are temples and early monolithic shrines that are important in Hinduism. You can see the sculpture down there, right? Some of you may know about that religion a little bit more, but I added a little bit about this, about the deep meditations, but it's these structures that were significant. 236 BC, the great sculptural monuments like these in India, especially the Taj Mahal, which I think we may have covered when we did some of that in that style with the white marble facade. And there's a story behind this really interesting about how he built it for the love of his wife or daughter, I think. So you might be interested in reading about that as well. So I just as an introduction to additional styles, you can imagine that if you look at the whole world over time, from way back at the beginning of time to now, there's just a range of so many different styles that we can talk about. So a couple of slides for each one. Definitely not an expert on all of them, but like kind of introducing them to you so that if any of these sound interesting to you, you can kind of like go find out more about it and do a little research. And that's why the assignment for today, talks about those different styles, but also has you going into and finding a few interesting things, just one thing about each one of these topics, either a building that represents that style or some kind of statement that you picked up that was interesting about it. I know I have a lot in the slide, so don't worry about, having it as something that's similar to what's in the slide. Just go do a little research with these styles yourself so that you can kind of discover all these different things. Oh, South Korea. Like this class would be that's all awesome. This class would be it would be hard to cover all ground of um of the entire world, but Japan, you're going to Japan, okay. Visiting Japan. I always thought maybe I would want to go there, and I thought, wow, that's pretty far. And there's a lot going on over there. I imagine that you'll be what do I want to say? Noticed in because like when I was in Paris and lived there for a little over a year, it you can see the different cultures, and there was a time when I first got there when there were a lot of Americans and a lot of, like, I'm Canadian, but they didn't know, people that look different than um, the culture that's there. And then as the war broke out while I was over there, one of the many little wars that we've had over time, um, more Americans took off, and I could really tell. I could really tell that I was outnumbered. Uh, but hey, we have in my lifetime, we've had so many conversations about different wars that have happened and survived, and you know, in and out of these things where there was a time when we built underground structures, you know. I was actually in high school, I think, just young, when we had this huge threat from another country, and they in the newspaper they were showing like rings of what area was affected. Everybody went out and built all these underground shelters, and now it became a huge thing for architecture to create underground living. Um, anyways, uh, it all works out in the end either way. And a lot of architectural styles come out of those changes that are happening. And a lot of architectural significant buildings get destroyed through through uh, through wars also. So we try to preserve as many things as we can. What about that movie? There was a movie about all the artwork from, I can't remember all the details, but it was a good movie where all the artwork from this famous museum were taken and kept someplace during the war, and then rediscovered. I'll have to find out what that. Do you guys know what that movie was? Do you guys remember that movie? I think it was a famous actor. Like, I want to say was what's the guy from Ultimate Born, you know, Born, Matt Damon. I think it was Matt Damon that was in this movie about the artwork during the war that was saved and then rediscovered. It's a pretty good movie. And John Goodman, I think, was in that movie too. So I like the way that movies have documented a lot of our architecture. You know, the people that I go to the movies with don't see the things that I see. Like you and I, everyone in this class, probably, I'm thinking you guys are looking at the background and you're seeing like, oh yeah, that building. I don't know. That's what I do. It's like, and my mom or whoever I go to the movies with wouldn't even see that kind of thing. But there are a lot of movies that represent what all of the different styles. And the really cool thing is to watch the movies that represent the future, the futuristic styles that we are imagining that we're coming to. So anyways, okay, so all of these different styles we talked about today are just kind of introductions to it. Go ahead and watch, work on this a little bit. And guys, I will talk to you online. I'll be here. I'll be here in the classroom if you have any questions. And I'm hoping you enjoy this class. It is kind of fun to go through here. Yes, and yeah, so I do have a lot of catching up to do here and there, and some of my classes from the combination of the surgery and family things going on. But for the most part, most of my classes are updated, and I'm answering as many emails as I can. If you have something, like I know I need to respond to some emails that are ongoing, because whenever I have curriculum changes, students go to register, they register and they can't find their class, so I'm trying to help as many students as I can. So yeah, be patient, but don't worry about emailing me a second time or texting me again until I actually answer, because you're not bothering me. I'm here to help you guys, so just keep in touch with me. I'm getting to those things. I did post some information for my other classes, so, and my grading is a little behind, but I'm working on it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the class, and we are going to be online from now until the end of the class. But I will be here in person if you need to use the computers or the drafting room, or you just have questions and want to come and talk to me. Yeah, it's a good time to talk to me as well because I'll be here, right? All right, guys, enjoy your day. I think the weather's finally trying to turn into some kind of spring, summer. So yeah, keep in touch if you need anything. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.